What is up, everybody? Thank you guys for tuning in again to this video. We're going to be doing a B and a C version of the P-51 Mustang. So starting off, this kit is literally so sweet. I just absolutely love this kit. Getting into it here, obviously you can see it's your typical Mustang parts. The clear parts are very good. They don't fit into the canopy that well, but still pretty good clear parts. And you get your one box and nice decals and nice instructions. As you can see, there's plenty of recessed panel lines, and obviously that's super helpful in a build, and dealing with Revell models, it's so nice to be able to have recessed panel lines finally again. Don't get it much with Revell, but on these models they came from a different line of models, so we get to experience Revell model kits at their full potential basically. The wings are really nice, everything really fell together on this model, and the wheels are nice. The decals, super typical decals, but they're great. They went well and they weren't too brittle or anything. Instructions are good. They just guide you along exactly what you need to do. And very basic and simple. The only thing with these instructions is they were not stapled together like other instructions. I don't know, some of you care about that. I don't really care, but it was bothersome while trying to flip pages back and forth. But anyways, here we go. We're into the build. The cockpit construction was very simple and easy. It's not super detailed, but it's detailed enough to make a nice model, basically. It's not super crazy and not so difficult, but you know, it's right in between. It's very mediocre cockpit assembly. Super easy, like I said, and actually the two halves fit together pretty well. There obviously on every model there's some seam work to do and there's some extra scribing, but really altogether it went together pretty well. A really good trick to get all your models to fit well is to shave down every single edge and just to sand it down real quick as well and make sure there's no obstructions. The prop fit together well, and you always want to make sure that you're gluing properly on the prop so it can spin. And all this stuff went together super easy, even the wings. And as you can see, it needs a little bit of sanding. So I sand with 220 at first, and then I walk my way down to a nice polished surface. And then after I sand, I scribe my lines. And when I scribe my lines, I'm super cautious and careful to just connect those other scribed lines perfectly. And that gives you your nice finished edge. I tape on my canopies off camera because it's a bugger, but it was super easy, and especially when I use Testors stretchy tape. This stuff is sweet for canopies. It literally works so well. Now, the edges of the back panels of the actual windows did not fit good whatsoever. I trimmed and trimmed, and then I trimmed too much. So bad. Like, that was my mistake. They leave you plenty of space to trim these correctly, but unfortunately I was not able to trim it correctly, and I got impatient and ended up trimming way too much off. So there's a huge gap there. I fix it later. But the rest of the canopy really fit perfectly. It really did. This is the B model, so it's kind of like an Apache, but it's not, but it is. Anyways, it's a weird mix. I am actually going to do a decal version history of these, and this is the B version, or the C version, sorry. I'm actually going to do a detailed version of all these kits, So check out that video as well. And you can see the history behind the pilots and the history behind everything that goes into these awesome P-51s. I use the same primer every time. I use Vallejo primer and just a regular black for panel lines. Seriously, I don't do anything particularly special for this. It's literally a gray bottom and an olive drab top, so it's not crazy with anything, you know, it's just easy acrylic paints. I just like having it nice and easy. I did actually attempt to paint around the wheel wells instead of trying to mask it off and all that crap. So it ended up working out pretty good, and really I don't see the bottom of the model very often, so if a little gray got in there, maybe, I don't know, I used it as like almost like a gray fading area. I didn't really care too much about that this time. I typically cover them all up and everything though, so I guess I didn't pay too much attention this time. But you just go around with this medium gray the whole time and make sure your panel lines are nice and gray. I literally just outline the panel lines as much as possible and then do one nice thin layer on top of everything at the end. So that's how I do my panel lining. So here I'm using Vallejo Olive Drab, not the primer, but I had already primed it with Vallejo Olive Drab primer. So now I'm just going over every single line and being careful about every single line that I do. And you want to just do that a few times, maybe 3 coats, and then give it a nice gloss over. I mean, it's really all you need when you have panel lines like this. It's really delicate work when you're dealing with going around each panel and filling in each square, but you just want a nice faded look. So also what helps too is to actually angle your airbrush at a nice solid angle, and it will, when you do your like final coat, it will actually keep that black part on the inside of your edged panel lines. These decals were also really nice too, both sets. One kit was, I think, opened a little bit earlier than the other one before I bought them, because these are all rare kits, so I got them off eBay. So one of them was a little bit more yellow than the other, but honestly they worked out great even though they were pretty old. The trick behind my decaling is I put my water on a candle warmer and I take it off and put it back on like every 10 minutes or so. This keeps your water nice and warm, but not too hot and not too cold. So you can put all your decals in so they won't curl and they won't be too hot. They're just burning. You gotta take it off or else it's way too hot. But I also use Micro Sol and Micro Set to place my decals, and that seems like that is my go-to method for my decal solution. So this is the silver Mustang, and I actually used Rust-Oleum metallic paint, 2X I believe. So that stuff is super shiny. I really did not want to use an oil-based paint, but dang, it really stuck really good. It bonded well with the latex primer that I had. I had to coat it a few times to get it nice and shiny and smooth. It's very delicate. You want to be really careful when using spray paints like that. It can seriously turn out super bad if you don't know what you're doing. So be careful if you do use this method, but it worked great and you didn't need to do a gloss coat over it. All of these decals did not flash whatsoever. So just, that is the #1 tip, is if you're doing silver metallic or anything like that, like, you do not have to do a gloss coat because it will not, it won't flash. Yeah, you didn't want to be here for 3 hours figuring this stupid checkerboard out, trust me. So I pretty much cut all of this crap out. But yeah, this was a pain. This decal did not fit. It needed to be cut in areas, and I didn't cut it, but I just used the shrinking method, and that is to keep mixing and warping the decal with your decal solution. So if you put enough micro sol on it, it will actually shrink it enough to get a nice outcome like it did. This is a method that I always use for doing silvering techniques, and that's just put a little paint on the sponge, and you dip it in, and then you dry it off on a piece of paper towel, and then you get your nice looking footprinted like silvering technique into this thing. It gives it the nicest texture, I think, and you can also use the green part, and what I do is rotate the sponge every few times so you're not getting the same exact texture every time. I also snip the ends of the sponge so it kind of diversifies it a little bit. So this airplane in real life was weathered to crap. I mean, it was a piece. I mean, seriously. So check out that video about that airplane too. There's a lot of cool history behind it, and enjoy the rest of the photos of both full builds. Thanks, guys.